Good morning and welcome to the latest installment of Treasure Coast Business Disaster Relief Efforts, brought to you by the Virtual Business Recovery Center and the Corporate and Community Training Institute at Indian River State College. This webinar is sponsored by the Florida Small Business Development Center, hosted at IRSC, and the Economic Development Council of St. Lucie County. I encourage you to post any questions, suggestions, comments, or concerns in either the Q&A or chat area of this virtual meeting room. Both can be found on your Zoom taskbar. Today's topic of discussion, Resilient Leadership, Thriving Through Change by CCTI Instructor Debra Williams. Thank you for joining us today, Debra. I'll now turn it over to you.
We're going to talk about just going through the issues that we have now with COVID-19 being a factor in our lives. As we actually navigate through all of this, it forces the need to actually change and do something different. So what we're going to look at today is, how do you become a resilient leader? I'm going to read the disclaimer before I actually start. So I want to make sure you understand that this webinar is intended to provide suggestions of how to emulate a resilient leader and thrive through the crisis created by the COVID-19 experience into a change through positive thinking and growth, as well as ideas of how to take control in a positive manner. The contents of this presentation are limited to convey general information only and not to provide legal advice or opinions. Nothing in this presentation should be construed as or be relied upon for legal in any particular circumstance or fact situation. The information presented may not reflect the most current legal developments. No action should be taken in reliance on the information contained in this presentation, and the author and sponsor disclaim all liability in respect to actions taken or not taken based on any or all of the contents of this presentation to the fullest extent permitted by law. An attorney should be contacted for advice on specific legal issues. All right, now that we have that out of the way, being the actual legalities of it all, let's dig into what it is to be a resilient leader. What is resilient leadership? Okay, so resilience, we know, is the human capacity to meet adversity, setbacks, and trauma, and then recover from them in order to carry on positively. Resilient leaders have the ability to sustain their energy level under pressure, to cope with disruptive changes and adapt. They bounce back from setbacks. Don't you think it's amazing how quickly many leaders morphed into superheroes during this crisis? Who would have guessed? Yes.
I'm just going to have you share your screen for us so we can see your presentation.
Oh, it's not up? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Let's see. Oh no. How do I do that?
On your taskbar, you should see screen sharing.
I don't see.
Or new share.
Share screen. This will stop other screen sharings. Do you want? Oh. Okay. I don't want it to stop the other screen sharing.
Yes, you do.
I do?
Yes. It'll change from my screen to yours.
Oh, okay. Okay. Was the sound on?
Yes.
Okay, share computer sound. Do I click that? Claire?
Yes.
and optimize screen sharing for video clip. I don't have a video clip. Okay. So.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so this knocked out. Let's see. Okay, I apologize. Okay, let's get over to the next screen. Okay, so can you see what is resilient leadership?
Yes, ma'am. You're good to go.
All right, I apologize for that. Okay, so we're going over what is resilient leadership. It's someone who recovers quickly, sees failure as temporary, maintains a positive attitude, and has optimistic outlook. So we're talking about these leaders who have morphed into superheroes. No one would have guessed that they would have to realize their most important actions would be to respond to the needs of the employees and to make an abrupt shift, okay, to transition the workforce. Virtually all of this because of COVID-19. It required all the organizations and employees to become much more agile. So I wonder if these changes would have ultimately occurred in the absence of the crisis where we've been experiencing. So I don't think so personally. I think our leadership resiliency has actually bubbled to the top because of these experiences and issues that we had to actually resolve on the fly. We had to make decisions quickly. So that's where resiliency comes in. No one knew that if this work from home was going to be successful. It had never been tested on such a grand scale before. But everyone pulled together because what? We were all in this together and we all made the change. We all made the switch. We're learning. I'm learning, as you see. I'm not accustomed to doing webinars as I am in front of a live audience. So we're learning and we're growing and we're developing new tools to put into our tool belt to use going forward, because I don't believe this is ever going away. So to be resilient is recovering quickly, okay? COVID-19 was a huge, huge issue, a negative impact, but we knew that it would only, and we still know, it will only be temporary. This is not something static that will be here for the rest of our lives. So being resilient is seeing it in that manner. How do you maintain a positive attitude in the midst of all of this that's actually going on? So we have to look at it as our new normal. I was watching a show not long ago that said that tagline, the new normal, has been around since the early 20th century. And it may be new to us because we haven't needed to adapt to a new normal. So that's why we hear it so often. So how do we adapt to it or raise the bar for ourselves, our teams, our companies, or our clients? Recovering and thriving through change is driven by resiliency. Recovery may lead to a situation much different than where you were previously, but however, as different as that place may be, it's always a better place than where you were. So let's look at things that a resilient leader has, okay, or does. I would say a resilient leader is a person who can, of course, recover quickly from difficult conditions and who sees failures as just a temporary setback. They can maintain their positive attitude and their optimistic outlook no matter what struggles they are facing because they always find a way to move forward. Okay, so you may be wondering, well, how do resilient leaders recover quickly? And how do they maintain their positive attitude and outlook? So let's start on how resilient leaders recover quickly. The number one way to experience resiliency for a leader is to build trusting relationships. And the second is by having an effective team around them. And we all know we've watched leadership, our government, our political leaders surround themselves with people that they trust and people who are effective team members, and we've seen them actually grow and become great. Okay, so think about it. If you have trusting relationships with people that you work with, it allows everyone to be more transparent, honest, and open. Okay? Have you noticed that during this time of crisis, there has been much more compassion, much more checking in with others? We're really being provided an opportunity to think differently about how we work together and how we treat one another and how we speak to one another. There's a lot going on in the world right now, which has caused more collaboration and stronger personal connection to come from the way we have to work together in this virtual environment. Our conversations have changed to focus on how each of us are doing before jumping right into work matters. The superficial pleasantries have given way to actually wanting to know how others are handling life through this COVID-19 crisis. We're being afforded this opportunity to get to really know the people we work with, which can make work much more pleasant. We're inviting people into our homes via video, which offers a glimpse into our personal life and breaks down some of the barriers that had existed previously. Your home is a very private space, yet when others get a chance to see you in that environment, it can make a relationship feel more relatable because they're seeing or hearing your kids, your spouse, or your dog barking. They may see family portraits, which make you appear much more relatable. There is really a grounding that I think has happened. I think that's a really big piece of this, that personalization. If you were told that your company would be 100% virtual prior to COVID-19, you probably would have thought that it would have been disastrous to work like this. Many people thought, well, how do you collaborate better online than face-to-face? Or how do you have better interactions when everything is virtual? I think it goes back to that point about being able to be more authentic and real with people, looking into their homes and their personal lives. It just makes it feel so much easier to work together. Again, mastering remote work starts with building high performance teams. You've got a different level of collaboration and a different level of commitment because everyone is in this together. Also, if you work with people that you trust, then there is no hesitancy to do more or share your suggestions and thoughts. Not to do more, no hesitancy anymore. You know that what you do will not only be in the interest of the company, but will be in your interest as well, and not at your expense. The trust lets you know that there are no hidden ulterior motives that exist, which may cause you to feel like the unlucky loser at the end of the day. Well, let's look at how resilient leaders maintain a positive and an optimistic outlook. 2 words, inclusivity and empowerment, are 2 effective words that, when they are practiced, make people feel freed from restrictive barriers. They feel that they have license to voice suggestions because many people are working in this uncharted territory right along with them. Employees are saying, well, you know, that may have been how it's been before, but you know what? This is the environment we're working in now. So what if we did this? And these types of suggestions should come from your diverse team. They may come up with an idea you've never thought about. The resilient leader should respond to a situation like this with intrigue and openness. Workers should be comfortable just running with it. I think what's happening is people are getting excited by this change, and they're feeling more empowered than they have felt in the past. So what can leaders do? Well, they can embrace it. They should allow their teams to run with it, and they should promote when they're seeing these small wins or things that are being done in a different way, because that will only help to spread the word. I really do believe we're going to see some innovations coming out of this within respective organizations. I think you'll see it from a functional perspective, and I think you'll also see it at the enterprise level. Smart leaders don't get intimidated by this shift in openness, but rather they should think, they may not be the people that we normally work with every day, but let's listen to their thinking. I think that everybody's learning how to work differently and how to communicate differently. This is a huge opportunity to shine. So let's look at what it takes. What are some of the things that it takes to be resilient? Well, are you able to move in a new direction? We all know that people don't particularly care for change. We like doing the same things pretty much the same way, but we don't like big change. And this is a huge change, pivoting into this virtual environment of working. We've moved into a new direction. How about learning new tools? Learning Zoom, GoToMeeting, Slack, Collaborate. A lot of new tools are out there. This is a hotbed for technology growth, developing ways to collaborate efficiently with one another. How about taking a look at where you were, what you were doing and where you were prior to COVID-19? These are things that you should be able to do as a resilient leader. I don't don't think any company will be successful post-COVID-19 if they back down their communications. It's the new norm. We're there, it's working, we're figuring out the kinks. Employees seem to love it. Productivity has been increased, and no more commuting. You can go to the office in your pajamas now if you don't have a meeting. Or business at the top, bedtime at the bottom. So we've seen it quite often. But the productivity is what I believe has shown that this type of new direction in working is definitely successful. And it's also how and when you communicate. Okay? You need to know not only just how, but when to communicate. My husband and I both are working from home, and I hear him often talk about how colleagues are not responding, and it causes decisions to take longer to be made. So having colleagues wait for you to send pertinent information that doesn't arrive until late in the day, after most employees have logged off of their computers from working all day, it won't win you any accolades. Statistics have shown that those who work from home tend to work more hours than those who go into work. Well, I can attest to that because you're given so many hours to spend at a job physically. And if you don't finish, most times you just leave. But when you're working in the comfort of your home, you tend to take short breaks. You might go out for a walk, come back, and work longer hours at a consistent block of time. Statistics have also shown that working from home increases that productivity and leads to healthier lifestyles. Well, you're comfortable, you're familiar with taking that break, getting up, going to the fridge, getting a snack, walking outside, maybe taking your dog for a short walk. These are all changes that lead to healthier lifestyles. And actually, you feel much better when you come back. So it does increase your productivity. What I would suggest is answer and send emails first thing in the morning to relieve others from constantly looking for your response about something. If written, communication, okay, if it's written communication, like an email, a text, or instant message, if that message is unclear after the second attempt to clarify it, by all means, pick up the phone. We still have cell phones that work unbelievably. Pick up the phone to clarify it. Don't continue to go back and forth trying to clear up an issue. That's a waste of time. That's not using effective time management skills. Okay? So becoming comfortable with moving in a new direction as a resilient leader, possibly working from home may require a video conference, okay, which demands controlling your work environment. The need for quiet during a call or video may be new to those who live with you. So communicating what days and times you will need to accomplish this will need to be coordinated with those who live with you. Look for options that work well for everybody. That is the thing. Since it's new for everyone, not just you, look for those options. Okay? Well, perhaps an outing for the family members to walk the dog together or go to the market, pick up some items, grocery items. Or maybe you could visit your favorite coffee house if it's open. And you know they have a quiet space for you to do the video conference because you just go there so often because you enjoy the ambiance. Make the most out of the time designated of the video meeting. Make the most, okay? Make sure that you have the necessary information to either dial in or log in, locate any materials that you will need to refer to during the meeting, and log in a bit early to check that your audio video is functioning properly. I'm going to do that from now on because I wasn't aware. Lesson learned. Developing strong time management skills will ensure that you meet required productivity markers as well. Some of the most important time management skills include, of course, getting organized. If you stay organized, okay, you can maintain a clear picture of what you need to accomplish and when you need to have it completed. I think I was supposed to. No, okay. Prioritize. A lot of time can be wasted by not choosing the task that is worthy of your attention. So many times we work on things that we shouldn't be working on. We put the things we don't care to do, we don't like doing as much, we put those aside and do the things that we enjoy doing. But that could be a waste of your time because you have not prioritized effectively. The other thing you can do to develop strong management skills is goal setting. Your goal. Stop procrastinating. Complete those undesired tasks in bite-sized pieces toward completion. Do a little bit at a time. Don't jump all in and just do everything at once because it's a project you don't like, and more than likely you won't do it well. You're planning. You have to plan for time management. So just skim over what it is that you need to do to get an idea of how long whatever it is you need to do may take. Lots of times we wait and put those things to the side, we procrastinate, and when we get to them, we're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I had to do. Yeah, okay. So that's what happens. You start feeling overwhelmed and you rush through it and you produce subpar work, ultimately. So make sure you just skim over it. Look at the details. See how long it will take for you to complete what it is that you need to do. And this is not a last result, but how about delegate? If you create a network of go-to workers, co-workers, and reach out for their assistance, I think that they'll respond. They'll surprise you and respond because we're all, again, helping one another in this new environment. And that's what you want, that networking, that creating of go-to people, understanding and knowing who the people are. Okay, so these are things we need to do. Also, learn new tools. Like I said, learn these things. This is the ideal time to learn those new tools that can bolster your skill and knowledge at work. Our new normal is complex and it's multifaceted, and it yields opportunity to develop and practice skills that we would not have utilized prior to our quarantine work demands. Learning how to participate in a variety of video meetings, present information via webinars, and use a variety of tools for various work requirements can be something that you'll be a master of if you just bite the bullet, don't be afraid, and go ahead and try it. The expectation of holding video meetings is that you're more focused on those conversations as opposed to multitasking. How many times have you been on a video where you're not seen and you just do a couple of things? You kind of 50% are listening, and then 50% you're doing something else, and then, oh, they said my name. I'm sorry, what did you say? We've all been there. Think about the old days of the conference calls, okay? Many of us, I'm included, that's the reason why I know, would be multitasking. But when you're on video, you're really holding yourself accountable to be a participant. There are things that show who's on the call. There are these chat opportunities to chime in right then and there and go into the chat box and produce a question so you don't forget about it later and you don't have to write it down on pen and pad. So there are lots of new tools. I'm excited about it. I'm anxious because I'm not a professional, but I am definitely diligently becoming better. So this tool I'll take with me forward into whatever new direction we end up being in. And collaborating with others. I always say, act like a student. And the reason why I say that is because I'm also a professor and I teach students. So what does that mean to you? Well, what that means is if you were a student and you missed a class, okay, what would you do? Would you just miss the class and show up for the next class hoping that nothing was shared that you needed? No, I think perhaps you would reach out to another student to find out what transpired during the class. If any information was shared that you needed to know, if any notes that they took could be shared. Well, the same applies for when you miss a meeting that you couldn't attend. It's ultimately your responsibility to keep abreast of information that is shared with the team at work. Remember, a team is only as strong as its weakest link. And you don't want to be that. You don't want to be seen as the weakest link. So make sure to share liberally with others. This is important in building the right teamwork environment. As you communicate openly and honestly, welcome a diversity of ideas. I love hearing from different people's perspective because everybody has different experiences. We all didn't grow up the same way in the same area and do the same type of work or hold the same types of jobs. So we've all experienced different things. So welcoming those diversity of ideas is wonderful, and give every idea respectful consideration. Okay? Don't shut it down because you don't know the person and you work with somebody else you have more respect for, that you will listen to what they have to say. I've been surprised in meetings from suggestions that were offered from people that I didn't expect. So having them, including them, and giving them the respectful consideration of suggestions is pivotal, okay? So with this collaborating, you need to meet often and make sure that you have contact information for those people that you may need to connect with. It's nothing worse than not knowing who to connect with. I mean, that happens at times. We don't know everybody that we work with, but knowing and asking people and having a list of contacts with what that person said and what that person does and what that person's willing to do and what their strengths are. And, you just make those network connections, because collaboration challenges people to think, okay, and articulate and receive clarity about their competencies. And teams ultimately work better together. The things that we were doing before COVID-19 most likely looked something like this. Okay, we got up in the morning, went to work, got ready, went to work. We arrived, I don't know, at work somewhere between 7 and 9 a.m. We worked about 8 hours, took 30 minutes to an hour for lunch. We left promptly, if we could, for home between somewhere 4 and 6 p.m. And we kind of repeated it again for 5 days during that week. Okay, so we've worked like that for, I'd say, the majority of our work history. But resilient leaders believe any period of volatility can create opportunities that businesses can leverage if they are prepared. That's different. That's where we were. So we're looking at this period of volatility and we're trying to create opportunities that we can leverage. But we do have to be prepared by doing the things that we have gone over thus far to become a resilient leader. It will help you be prepared. In the case of COVID-19 outbreak, organizations that take a more assertive and longer-term approach can spark innovation that will define their next normal. I do believe that's what companies are going to be looking for, resiliencies. The most resilient person will bubble up to the top, so to speak, will be shown, okay? Because we may never work the same again. And there's no reason why we should ever go back to working the same again. I hope we don't. Hope we learn from this and become better. So now we're up to this slide that I've showed you. Why resilience is important in leadership. Well, why do we have to be resilient in leadership? Well, let's see. How about because they have the ability to sustain their energy level under pressure, to cope with disruptive changes and adapt? Like we said, they bounce back from setbacks. And not only do they bounce back from setbacks, they bounce back quickly from setbacks. So if you are in a leadership position, okay, you have those that are watching you, that are relying on you, that you have to be pretty much a role model for. You have to show how resilient you are. You have to include them and empower them. You have to make sure that they are included. They're inclusive. There's inclusivity in what you're doing to make them a real team member. Resilience is a crucial character of high-performing leaders. Leaders must cultivate it in themselves in order to advance and thrive. So this is something you have to cultivate. This is all on you individually as a leader who wants to be resilient. So when facing challenges, leaders are also responsible for helping sustain the energy of their teams. Okay? Because leadership itself is sustainable only if individuals and teams are able to consistently recover high energy levels. So you can't beat down your team. You can't have them produce things that are unrealistic, that weren't realistic probably in the office before, but you have to consider all the changes that have taken place and the environment that your team is now working in. So you want them to consistently recover at high energy levels, and yourself as well. Okay? So firstly, resilient leaders must master self-leadership. A high-performing leader needs to be physically, mentally, and emotionally fit, as well as resilient in order to inspire and guide others to achieve ambitious goals. Now, I don't think there's anything worse than having a tired, overworked, beat down, disgruntled leader. So how is that leader going to inspire and guide others to achieve ambitious goals if they're not in that space themselves? So the journey to inspiring others starts with just that question. How do I inspire myself? Well, by promoting a positive mindset and figuring out how to work with stress. A mindset is very, very important. Cultivating a positive mindset is one of the keys to resilience. The human brain is immensely powerful and complex, and it allows us to strengthen certain thought patterns over others. Mindset enhances resilience because how we think about stress determines whether it is positive or negative. Recent research suggests that stress, even extreme stress, can be good for the heart, the brain, and other aspects of human functioning, depending on how you think about it. If you believe stress is good for you, it will enhance your well-being. If you believe it is bad for you, it will be destructive. Embracing a positive mindset doesn't mean ignoring feelings of loss, disappointment, or grief. We have to allow ourselves to grieve in order to get over what we've lost. I mean, it could be a colleague who's moved to a different job, it could be friends, it could be a loss of a project that got canceled, and ultimately our dreams, those things, we need to grieve over them. Understanding loss and failure is fundamental to the recovery process. Setbacks are an inevitable part in life, and we have to learn to welcome the lessons they yield. Extracting meaning from adversity allows us to move on. So that's like just looking back and contemplating over what transpired, because we're all going to have setbacks. We're all going to experience disappointment and grief and all of those other negative things. But what you do with it determines how you'll come out of it. How you handle it, how you think about it, and how you emerge from it. Your thought process of that determines how you actually move on. We all work in an environment that has a level of stress. I'd say this particular time, depending on who you ask, is stressful. For other people, it's invigorating. That's how I see it. It's invigorating. I get to do and learn something new and different. It's scary because it's a change, but I'm willing to do it. Guess why? Because everybody else is in this too. They have to learn and change right along with me. So how well leaders manage stress helps them determine how resilient they are overall. Okay, stress reactions such as a pounding heart and fast breathing prepare our bodies to meet a threat. We all know that fight or flight response that's allowed humans to survive dangerous situations since the dawn of our species. But stress can help galvanize leaders and teams at a critical juncture. Okay? And in contrast, people who don't have a sense of urgency and fail to react to a threat can't get their organization to optimal levels. Excuse me. There has to be a balance between too little tension and too much tension. Leaders have to also be aware of the stress levels and heed the body's distress signals, both in themselves and guess what? In others. They can then find ways that allow them to relieve tension and regain their positive energy. A lot of this I always relate to is emotional intelligence. First of all, you have to be aware of how you feel and then how other people are feeling. Be aware of that as a leader. It's one of the most important things in becoming a successful leader. Okay? So you must also become attuned to the stress levels of people around them and reach out to those experiencing stress. Leaders want vibrant, inspired, and energetic employees. Oh, that sounds wonderful, doesn't it? To have those type of employees. I do. I want to be one as well. To avoid stress becoming a performance issue, they can take an active role in promoting resilience and boosting energy in their teams. Talk about it. Bring it up. And you'll get a bevy of different responses, how people determine how they feel and how they react. Everyone's different. You need to know how everyone is feeling in addition to knowing how you feel. Building resilience is essential, but we must also remember that beyond success, the goal is to find joy in work and life. We want to thrive, not to survive. We're amid a new model of leadership during this crisis. Sustainability of human energy, where the different facets of our identity must be in balance. So we have the opportunities because we're at home. We have all the tools. As I talk to you in this webinar, my diffuser is misting frankincense in my office. So you can't do that in an office space at work. Somebody may not like the scent. Somebody may be allergic. So there are different things that you can do to help make yourself a much more resilient leader, keeping a positive mindset and reducing your stress and reducing the stress of those around you as well. Leaders are going to need to become more resilient, much more agile, and the expectation is going to be able to pivot in order to guide their teams into a different way of working in the future. I thank you and I appreciate you joining me for this webinar. And we're going to open up the time, the last 10 minutes, to any Q&As that you may have. I'm sure that there's a chat box. Okay. Let's see, what are, okay, we have a question. What are some of the suggestions to, oh, okay, reduce stress in employees? Well, once again, what you would do is make sure that you are familiar with how you feel. Okay, knowing how you feel first is most important. So if you feel anxious, recognizing that. And once you recognize that, if your employees are feeling stressed, you could talk to them or tell them, approach them and tell them, today's not a good day for me, but I'd like to talk to you, is coordinate a day where you feel better. Your stress level has to be where you are beneficial to your employee. So approach them, let them know that you recognize that there's an issue, there may be an issue, but let them know that you are open and willing to talk to them and listen to them. Okay, I think that's more important. Listen to them. Any other questions? I have to tell you that video, not so much as video, but virtual working has really been a journey. Initially, I was doing a lot of Zoom birthday parties. Um, we even did a Zoom book club meeting. And it was all about Zoom because just as a novice and most people who are not employed, we're doing Zoom. So we had a lot of celebrations via Zoom. And then my work moved over to Collaborate in Blackboard since I'm teaching online classes. And we developed a network group, to just come together and practice with the small group of other professors who were teaching. And we've learned so much with that group. And now I feel very comfortable with it. I moved on from Collaborate and I did a couple of meetings with GoToMeeting. And these were different reasons why I was doing the GoToMeeting. That worked out pretty well. You have to get all dressed because people see you. And now there's another one that I did as well. I can't think of which one it is. But just having the experience of working through different aspects and different venues in this virtual environment has really led me here. And I am enjoying sharing information with you. I hope there was something there that you could glean from how to become more resilient. I do believe that I share a lot of these characteristics of a resilient leader because I always have my hand up just to learn new things. That's the reason why I do what I do, is to learn new things. And I learn something new every day. If it's not from my students, it's from the environment that I'm teaching or training or sharing information in. And that, my friends, it makes it all worth it. As long as I learn every day, I feel like I'm growing. And growing in the world brings me joy and a balance in my life. I want to thank you again. There are no more questions out there. I'll go ahead and end the webinar. And thank you. I appreciate your attendance.
Thank you, Deborah. We greatly appreciate you joining us today. And thank you, everyone, for joining us, and tune in again tomorrow at 2 p.m. We have Florida Commissioner Tom Epsky, who will be answering your questions on COVID-19 and the Fair Labor Standards Act. You can register for that in advance or view past webinars by going to youredc.com/VBRC/. Again, that's youredc.com/VBRC/. Thank you and stay safe, everyone.